they've been, my goodness, in March, I think they only lost three times or something like that in regulation, and but then they've done it mostly without Malkin and Letang. That begs the question: what's going to happen to the lineup when those guys come back? Because I'm pretty sure they're probably pretty close to being ready and probably will be back for the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely hope that both will be back for the playoffs. They hope both have been skating. And at this point, Malkin talked the other day. I haven't heard anything from Letang yet, but Malkin talked and said he hopes to get into a couple games before the playoffs. So, not really sure I would um, think there was any chance of seeing him tomorrow because they haven't had a full practice and he hasn't participated in a full practice yet. Um, but he would like to get into a game or two before the playoffs. Chris Letang, I'm not sure what his status is, but he has been skating as well. And if they get those guys back, it's an interesting situation because then you really have a full complement of your best players to choose from, and the lineup can shuffle around a little bit. Like all of a sudden, you have you have a second line where you put Evgeny Malkin and like last night Nick Bukestad started as the second line center, so maybe he moves back down to the third line. Teddy Bluger's to the fourth line, which is quite a fourth line center in my view, and then
Yeah.
you bring Chris Letang back in, Brian Dumoulin gets to return to playing the correct side, which I'm sure Brian Dumoulin would be really happy about. And then but although he's been fantastic on the right side, like barely a blip in terms of um, an adjustment that you've seen from him, and just goes to show what a really solid defenseman he is to be able to adapt his game like that, because that was really a big ask for him. But you're looking at who ends up as the scratch at that point. Are we looking at, does Marcus Patterson get scratched? Or, I think that they've really liked that pairing with him and Gabranson. So is it maybe Ole Mata who ends up on the outside looking in because they happen to like these left-right pairings they've got going? And if so, if you have a guy like Ole Mata sitting out for the playoffs because you're that strong and that's the guy you decided was your weak link when you looked at your defense, it's not a bad position to be in.
It's a wonderful problem to have. Yeah, I mean, yeah, having to sit Ollie Mata is yeah, it's amazing, and somebody's going to get hurt sometime during the playoffs, and you can just put somebody else right in. So yeah, I think there's just a lot of depth right now. It just I don't know. I think they're just really well equipped for the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm feeling that too. And I definitely wasn't feeling that way a couple of months ago. So
Yeah,
the moves they've made, and then just really a couple of these guys that they've called up, I don't think you can say enough about Teddy Bluger. And then on that fourth line last night, I love the contributions of Adam Johnson and Garrett Wilson on that fourth line with Matt Collin. And you got the fourth line scoring contributions last night, but you also regularly get contributions from them just in terms of really bringing sort of that kind of traditional fourth line energy game that they can play. And I think players like that have stepped up so nicely that you feel like if a player does get injured in the playoffs, you're not looking at some unknown quantity without NHL experience stepping in, which is kind of cool too, that you feel like you have reserves to draw on who have played before and been successful in the NHL before, and you really have an idea what you can expect from them.
yeah. So I I haven't really looked into the Islanders much. It looks like that's who they're going to play in the first round. How do you think they match up against them?
Yeah, I certainly think that is the better matchup, like I mentioned, than the other, potential division winning teams. But the Islanders, on the bright side, the Islanders are playing right now and are losing to the Toronto Maple Leafs late in the third period. So with any luck,
Hmm.
the Penguins really could control a little bit of their fate by pulling out a win in Detroit tomorrow, first of all. if they could do that, they would clinch their playoff spot, which they haven't officially done yet, and which is crazy with 3 games remaining. It's getting a
Yeah.
little late here, guys. The Islanders have clinched their spot, but the Penguins need 2 points, or need Montreal to drop 2 points for them to get their spots. So if they could win tomorrow night, they take care of it. But then also, I think what's interesting is that the Islanders fans have really been waiting for this for a while, and I think the fan base is so excited that I'm really hopeful for the Penguins that they can perhaps find a way to pull out the home ice advantage in that series, just because I think the home ice crowd could really heavily weight in the Islanders' favor in that series. Just kind of an exciting environment for them. They have a lot of exciting offensive players. Their leading scorer is Matt Barzal, who has been fantastic regular season this year, and they're getting crazy goaltending from Robin Lehner, which is, to me, kind of out of nowhere. And
Yeah, really.
I've looked throughout the season and just thought, okay, this isn't sustainable. When does this stop? And he's really been able to maintain it for a fair amount of the season. They also have, though, Thomas Greiss is their other goaltender, who has just about split the number of games with Lehner. So I think, much like a team like the Penguins were a couple of years ago, when you had Marc-Andre Fleury and Matt Murray sort of as your 1 and 1A, you have a team that has two potential goaltending options to go to there. So that's something you could definitely look at as a strength for them. But just down their lineup, there's just a lot of familiar names that you can look at and say, okay, here's players that were impactful for other teams that have found a home there and have been pretty successful for them this year. A player like Jordan Eberle, who comes from the Edmonton Oilers and is playing well for them. Valtteri Filppula is there. Nick Leddy is a great defenseman for them. Cal Clutterbuck is there, and is a really strong physical presence. So they seem to have a little bit of everything, and I think have surprised a lot of people this year, but really have kind of come out of nowhere to be a pretty exciting team with a fair number of offensive players that can put up points. So I think that's definitely going to be a fast matchup for the Penguins, probably a lot of scoring in both directions, and I think would be a really fun series. But I do think the Penguins would really benefit from trying to eke out home ice there.
Yeah, yeah. All the credit has to go to Barry Trotz.
Now
Nope.
that's still, I shake my head at what a crazy situation that was, that
Yeah.
he was allowed to walk.
How do you win a Stanley Cup and say, okay, see ya? Or what? You
Well,
want more money? Get out of here. Like, really? Just give him what he wants. He just won you a Stanley Cup.
he clearly felt disrespected by the organization, and that to me is astonishing. I mean, a guy doesn't do that if he feels like he's being taken care of by the organization where he is. So,
Yeah.
that he clearly felt that he wasn't being treated properly, and that was that. So, the Islanders game for sure, and it's been I'm sure that's been really fun for him to be at the helm of something kind of unexpected like this, and the fans there, as I mentioned, have really been waiting for it and are super excited.
I just figured it out. I have a secret weapon. So let's say if the Penguins are playing the Islanders in the playoffs and they get behind or something, have Tavares show up in the crowd in the stands in one of the games. They'll be so preoccupied with like, what's he doing here? Hey, I hate that guy. That they won't even worry about. They won't worry about the actual play. They'll just be preoccupied with Tavares.
Well, I see two flaws there in this. Number one, I don't know why he would do that favor for the Penguins. And number two, I think he's also going to be
He's
busy.
kind of busy, yeah, yeah. Okay, they're okay. I'll have to go back to the drawing board, but still.
Maybe you could have like a cardboard cutout of John Tavares.
Yes. Oh, that's it. Okay, okay. New plan. everybody in PPG Paints Arena gets a John Tavares mask.
Oh, that's tremendous. That's the giveaway.
Yes,
That, that that's
giveaways. Instead of one of those white T-shirts, give away a Tavares mask.
that's beautiful. That's one of the best things I've ever heard.
I
The Islanders would be so upset.
that is a passionate fan base. When he came back, that
Oh, that
game,
it was
wow, that was crazy.
it really was. It's just, and too, I kind of get it. Can you imagine if the day came that Sidney Crosby decides, okay, I'm a free agent. I'm gonna look at my options, and it's just never gonna happen, right? So,
Right, right.
I guess, but again, much like Barry Trotz, if you're a guy who's just not feeling the loyalty from your organization or not feeling, I think what John Tavares really felt was that he had been there a number of years and kind of felt like he was languishing and his career was languishing. And when are you going to build a team around me that's going to be a contender? And, clearly he felt he was going to get that in Toronto where he wasn't getting it on the island. So he, he went for he went for it where he felt like he had the best opportunity. You can't fault a guy for that, but you can certainly torment him when he comes back, and obviously did.
Yeah, they certainly did fault the guy.
Oh
That was
my.
that was crazy, but oh well. Yeah, like I said, I'm so excited about the Penguins prospects in the playoffs. I think it's going to be great, and it's three more games and it's finally here. Yeah, assuming they actually make the playoffs because they haven't totally clinched yet.
What I really do like too is, Mike Sullivan every time he is asked about that, every time he's asked about looking ahead to the playoffs or, getting players back for the playoffs or anything at all about the playoffs, he says, first thing we're looking to do is, earn a spot in the playoffs. He says it every single time. And I just love that very single-minded focus from a coach. He's not taking anything for granted. And it would be really kind of unseemly if he did, and if he just took that for granted and
Uh,
was looking on ahead.
not
I
like
really
the
respect.
not like the coach of the Steelers that say, "Oh yeah, we're really looking forward to playing New England." Like, hey,
Oh,
that's
I,
weeks ahead. Like, yeah, we're worried about them. Like, well, what about the other games, sir? What, so yeah, it's really nice, and
yeah. I
he's
mean, he's constantly everything as we're looking at the game that's in front of us right now. It's a constant refrain from him, and I just couldn't have more respect for him and the way he conducts himself and the way that he, the way that he sort of instills. I feel like that mindset from him really does pass along to his team, which is what I think you're seeing now with the way they're playing. Like the effort they showed last night in a must-win game like that against Carolina, I felt that was every inch of Mike Sullivan team going out on that ice, like very just just kind of a lunch pail sort of performance. I'm just, we know the stakes in this game. We're showing up and we're shutting this team down. We're taking advantage of our opportunities. We're not getting Sidney Crosby on the board tonight, but we're getting the fourth line on the board tonight. It's
yeah.
just exactly his mentality to me. And even back when he was a player, I remember Mike Sullivan as a player like that. So not surprising.
And yeah, he deserves a lot of credit. We talked about all the turnover in a team. Well, you have to make that all work. And he was able to do that. All these new players is like, oh, hey, here's our system. Let's, basically teach half the team a new system, and he made it work.
Yeah, he really did, and he. I think a nice part of it too is getting those guys in on the earlier side than later. It's always nice to be able to bring in that biggest trade that they made for McCann and Bukestad was beginning of February. So you have all of that time to acclimate them to the system. You have a good couple of months before the playoffs start to really make them feel that they're part of the team and that they understand how the Penguins play and really feel like they're a part of things here. I think that's super important. But I think just the way that Mike Sullivan coaches the team instantly, um, really just just instills that mindset. He knows how the team is going to play. He knows how he wants them to play, and he sometimes you hear him after games talking about these things that it feels like he says every game, about the identity and tough to play against and trusting. One thing last night that he brought out again, it was in regards to Phil Kessel, who can't seem to buy himself a goal. Talking about, talking about trusting the process. You can't control